Dungeon Master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position.
Dungeon Master and Dwarven Sword Master, Hobgoblins, Dwarves, Elves, and Halflings are some of the characters and terms used in this very complicated and controversial game.
You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created.
Well, what's up, everyone? Another week. We actually have guests this week. It's not just Vic and I rambling for 2 hours. Vic, thanks for being here, as always.
Yeah, welcome, man.
And we're joined by Matt and Young Steve, Ginger Fraser and Young Steve, from Black Lodge Games. They have a new Kickstarter coming up. Your guys' third book.
Yep.
Bloodmoor. And so we're here this week to talk about that. I'm interested in knowing a little bit more about it. I'm a little biased, I did the cover art for it, so
Yeah, that's true, and it's
I'm
very
a little.
good.
I might not be the most unbiased, objective interviewer here, but
yeah, we may need you. We may need you for some interior art as well.
Oh, okay, hit me up.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for your trumpet as always. You're super generous. I would have no supporters if it wasn't for you. With you always gifting memberships. But yeah, I'm glad you guys are here this week. I'm interested to talk about Bloodmoor. And I don't know where to start with this. I guess we'll start with this question. Like what kind of inspired this reading you guys sent me the Kickstarter, the preview page for it. And so I was reading it a little bit, and I guess I was kind of curious. I think I kind of know the answer to this, but maybe some people maybe have this question with kind of the products that you guys have released already. But what inspired you to go the surreal horror theme in Bloodmoor, sort of like this gothic surreal horror thing? Is it your VTM background? Is it the I obviously there's a character. This is connected to the Shucked Oyster, so you plucked a character out of that, and you're kind of expanding that as well. So, I guess what was the inspiration for that, though?
Yeah, it's a lot of it was that the Shucked Oyster was supposed to be like 20 pages when I first started, and then it just spiraled radically out of control, and we ended up having a bunch of ideas that didn't fit into that module, and so we wrote kind of this extra adventures or beyond the oyster section at the end of that, and it had a bunch of details that implied a much larger world, and we just kept thinking of it. Like we couldn't get the ideas out of the head, and so even while we were writing Cults of Zahak, we kept having more and more ideas. We knew that we wanted to pursue. We left a pretty major hook in the Shucked Oyster related to the vampire Mungo Borlov and his Dracula wives. And that was meant to be kind of a hook for everyone else to run with, but we were thinking like we should really do like a full module about that. And then we let that sit while we were working on Cults of Zahak. And the more that the ideas kept coming back, it was like, this isn't like we might do that module someday, but we're like, this is much more, the broader world is much more interesting to us at this point.
Yeah, much like, and we've talked about this before when we were talking about the Shucked Oyster, how this sort of joke video we did for Shadowdark spawned the premise for the Shucked Oyster itself. The character of Mungo Borlov and all of his intrigues and the associated characters in his orbit, it was such a big part, even though he isn't even directly important at all in the core resolution per se of the Shucked Oyster.
Yeah,
I call it a resolution. It was too good of an idea. We, like Matt said, we kept thinking about it, and the implications of Mungo's situation and his drama implied a larger world. And of course, being a very obvious, powerful, ancient vampire,
Yeah.
well, that thematically has many other implications to, turn the volume up on all of these other gothic horror and other types of horror monstrosities or situations, tropes, trends, and themes that really spun into, well, let's just make a surreal horror world where all of these things are happening. And in that way, it puts the Shucked Oyster in a little bit of context. As chaotic as it is, it may well be a safe haven for the even more batshit things that are going on out there.
Yeah.
Well, not only is it like surreal and horror, but it's also very tongue-in-cheek. It's very self-referential. And is that like literally based just on like that? You mentioned like making a joke video. Is that literally spawned from that, or is there like some other philosophy behind this? Like why it's kind of like, it gives me very like Universal Monsters vibe, like kind of with Frankenstein and the Mummy and like stuff like that. And I love that shit. So
Yeah, that's very much. Yeah, that's very much like the rest of the setting where we're basically like it's like with the Shucked Oyster, are the characters, a lot of times, even just by the name, you can tell what this person's personality is, And we wanted to bring that feel to the rest of the world. And so it is very much Universal Monsters. You've got, you do have mummies and liches and the Frankenstein body horror land, which we've called Fleischland, capital of Cronenberg, body horror and Frankenstein. There's like a kind of a gothic, like Camelot type place called Wraithholm that's ruled by Death Knights. There's like a labyrinth sort of world that's the Goblin Kingdom of Mirthgrieve. A bunch of different places, and there is a sword and sorcery land as well, which is the Moonsun Desert. But it all kind of the tongue-in-cheek nature grew out of a lot of what was going on with the Shucked Oyster, because it was such a funny idea to us. But what we always do is whatever it is that we're playing, we always try to take it really, really seriously from the perspective of the characters. So it's like, what if this really super bizarre world existed and it was real? Like, and you had to take it seriously. And like the characters who have like these wacky ideas about things, it's like, what would it mean? What would a person look like if they actually believed something crazy like this? And so that's where the humor kind of comes from. And we've talked before about like, in different movies, especially or TV, like in David Lynch's stuff, a lot of times the content is very, very dark, but it's so funny. And it is because the situation becomes so absurd, whether it's, like Laura Palmer's father falling into her grave at her funeral and the coffin being, machine raising and lowering, and everyone in the scene is horrified, but as the viewer, you're dying laughing. And that's the sort of thing that happens in our games. Like we have the reputation of being, the super serious story gamer types, and it's not totally unfounded. But there's a lot of times where something really serious is going on in the game, but we're like dying laughing at the table.
I think that's something like maybe your games are similar too, because you guys talk a lot of theory. I talk a lot of theory on running games and experiencing them, and I think some people think like, oh, you guys take it like way too seriously. I bet your games are a dreadful bore to be a part of. And it's like, well, no, it's like kind of like what you said, like you're playing the game and it's sort of like there's jokes being cracked by players out of character, based on the situation that's going on. And sometimes those jokes kind of even inform back into the game a little bit. But then again, like you're playing it kind of straight as your character because that joke was kind of funny, but so I think people think like, oh, you guys take it way too serious, but it's like, well, yes and no.
I mean, it's like when we were playing Mithras earlier in this year, there was a situation in the last session that we played where our characters came upon these trolls doing this like horrific ritual, and it was very serious. And our characters were like, we have to destroy these like demonic things because this is a vile affront to man. They're doing, they're perverting this fire, this terribly unholy thing, but the combat that ended up being so over the top in terms of the violence that happened, and one of these trolls ripped its own brain out and jumped into the fire at the same time. They were all dying laughing, but in context of the game, the stakes were super dire, and so it's like this is this is taking that and making it a little more explicit, where the premises themselves are a little bit sillier in nature, but again, like taking it seriously from that perspective, I think actually makes it a lot more funny.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Yeah, that's right, John.
Well, the way you guys are describing things too, it kind of made me think. Like, have you guys read any of the Dying Earth, like Jack Vance stories?
I love the Dying Earth. Yeah.
Okay.
I have not, but yeah.
Okay, so it kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, it's very absurd, but like there's serious stuff happening.
Yeah.
But then it's just like such like the way the conversation is going between characters in his stories. You know, it's like you know, like in Kujel's saga when he's at Flutic, and he's he's like getting his job interview, and it's like the super. He realized like he kind of got duped into being a slave essentially, and you know his whole plan of how to escape. It's like totally ridiculous and absurd, but it's like kind of funny at the same time. Even though like a character's who previously had sort of cheated his way out of being a slave for Twango, I think is his name. He jumps off a roof, but. It's like funny still. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Well, you guys mentioned like Labyrinth, and that movie is pretty silly. You know, you've got like David Bowie just being like a dancing twink. You've got fucking like a fart swamp. You've got like the fox thing. But Jennifer Connelly, I think her name was, like, she takes it very, like, her character takes it seriously. Like, she wants her brother back. Like, you know, she's like on this quest. Like, she's not like a silly character. She's like a serious character in this silly world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right.
Or even something as simple as like The Office, you know, where it's like you have these over the top characters, but they play it straight. So it's very uncomfortable. And that's where the humor comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see here. So I guess it kind of leads to the next question I kind of had. Like, how would you guys, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but people that are maybe unfamiliar with your work, because I assume, you know, after Shucked Oyster, you gained a readership, people that are interested in the world that you guys are creating. And then after, you know, it's going to, as you guys continue to make stuff, I would hope, and I would assume, like, you're going to keep getting new people. So how would you describe the Bloodmoor setting to someone new to your guys' work? You know, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I guess if you could give like a quick, like, I don't know, elevator pitch kind of description of what it is to get people interested. I'm never good at answering these questions, so I'm interested to see how other people answer these questions.
Yeah, me either. I hate that question, actually.
It's a terrible question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad question. I think it's a great question, and it's a fair question. And we've said elsewhere, Matt, I don't recall who coined the phrase, but it is apropos and accurate. You know, the most succinct elevator pitch and the energy that's really right up front is Ravenloft on bath salts. It is balls to the wall, absurd, taken seriously, but absolutely absurd situations, rivalries, petty vengeances, inscrutable motivations that everybody else takes seriously, but that you almost certainly can't comprehend or understand why anyone has skin in the game. But it is all happening at once, all over the place, all the time. And, you know, much like the Shucked Oyster was our attempt to, you know, with a single location, show how the quote-unquote downtime town, village, outside of the dungeon, overworld location is not just where you save your video game file, you replenish on all of your hearts and get all of your equipment, all your arrows, and all your king bolts back to max capacity. Things are happening, and the most interesting things in a lot of respects are happening in town. We talked a lot about incorporating a soap opera type structure such that just entering into this place with all these absolute weirdos with their schemes and politics, something's going to happen, whether you know it or not, whether you intended it to happen or not, whether you like a character, hate a character, or are indifferent. They're not indifferent to you, and they're not indifferent to each other. And so just like the real world, you know, getting caught up in the web, that really happens, much possibly to your own surprise, your player's surprise. and doing that at a setting scale with multiple super powerful, super evocative, identifiable characters like a King Arthur, Death Knight type guy, you know, Arthas, Mordred, Lord Soth, iron-fisted general of life and undeath, a lunatic, deranged, heavy metal album cover lich, an overly tragic, hot goth elven banshee queen, all the other types of things, the Goblin King, Labyrinth. We get these things, and we get what sort of vibrations they give off. We get the frequency of the energy, and exploring and getting a chance to be caught up in the what would naturally happen, what could naturally happen, is really what we're trying to put over here. And hopefully, in a similar way to hopefully making a light bulb go off in people's heads for how to design a town, or even just think about a town or characters. Here's how you can think about making a campaign setting. That's more than just facts or lore or new class options.
Yeah.
What's the feel, and how do people live, and what are the kind of situations that happen?
What are the conflicts that are already brewing and just ready for you to stumble into and make much worse or much better?
Well, that kind of brings up another question, just, hearing you guys talk about that. How important would you guys say in designing something like this, or it's whether you're designing a supplement, a game, or just running a game, is like media literacy. Like I advocate a lot for media literacy, for your games. So it sounds like you guys are influenced by a lot of stuff. Like Vic had mentioned the Universal Monster vibe. You guys have mentioned Twin Peaks and David Lynch style storytelling, soap operas, and we're talking about Dying Earth just a second ago. So it's like, I kind of wonder when you look at like a lot of the more mainstream stuff being produced in the hobby that's sort of generic and bland and blah, it almost seems like the authors of these sorts of things are just afraid of media literacy, if that makes sense. Because sometimes you're kind of influenced by media that might not be PC. Not everyone's gonna like that really like niche thing that you like, but I think when you incorporate that kind of stuff in and you start being influenced by a lot of different things, like what Vic does with like, what if it's like the far future of the Forgotten Realms and everybody has AK-47s, right? Like that's an interesting little like mishmash of stuff, and it makes something unique. And it's almost like in the hobby, like a lot of people are afraid to sort of draw from influences. I don't know.
I think there is an element of that. We just have very strong taste in what we like and what we don't like. And so we want to bring the things that we like to other people. I think that a lot of fantasy, to me, the problem, and this is kind of my biggest problem with 5e, because it's like, I don't think it's a terrible game or anything like that, but I remember seeing the books when they very first came out and being like, this is really bland. Like, I don't know what this fantasy world is. And it's supposed to be for any any setting. So I understand there is an element for D&D. It's kind of a special case like that. But I think a lot of people, like, everything ends up looking the same because they don't have an opinion, or they don't want to be so opinionated that they might turn someone off. And so it kind of, it's not like a lowest common denominator thing, but it's casting the widest net possible. And for us, we didn't ever want to do that. And I think that's evidenced by the videos we make on our YouTube channel. We're not concerned with making everyone happy. It's like, we know that there's going to be some people that really, really get it and love what we love. And there will be some people that it's not for, and we're okay with that. We're not, because I think if you try to get everybody, you end up getting not really all that many people,
or you get idiots. It's not necessarily the audience that you want to have, because they're as bland and vanilla and as passionless as the material that you're making. The bland vanilla, there's not even like chocolate chips or sprinkles on it, ice cream sort of thing that you're making. So
I think that is a path to success in this hobby as a creator. Like I'm a big proponent of that. Like you need to like lean into a niche and then capture that niche.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did with that whole urban, like my modern fantasy, urban fantasy thing that I'm doing. Like.
So I would phrase this a little bit differently. So I certainly agree with what we're all talking about and what we're all trying to sort of get at and express here. There's a ton of bland trash out there. I don't think media literacy is the. I don't think it's that per se. Although there's an element in which that's true. People are either afraid, or I think far more commonly, it isn't even that they're afraid, at least not consciously. It's that they are true, like oatmeal people. Like there's nothing happening. These are not human beings.
Well, I think we work with the bell curve, and it seems like I've said this before. It seems like the peak of the bell curve is like, so you have very low and not smart, low IQ person, very high IQ smart person, and the bell curve seems to be peak at like sub 80 IQ. And so like that's kind of like what we're dealing with, And then like 1 in 4 people, I read a statistic somewhere, like 1 in 4 people are on psych meds. So like this is the kind of person that you're generally dealing with when you're interacting.
Use person lightly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not.
But I don't.
There's a 25% chance you're dealing with someone who's not playing with a full deck. Is what I'm trying to say. So,
I mean, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. But because I've seen this discourse of like we need to be using Appendix N, or we need to be using these sort of older things, be inspired by them. That's true, but inspiration and imagination are just sort of two sides of the same coin. You either have an aptitude and a natural capacity to be creative, or you don't have that. And if you don't have it, tough luck. That is what it is. And if you do, then you do. But I'm less sympathetic to the idea of, and this may not be what you're arguing for, but this is a mind trap that, not to bring the bros into it, but that I think is flawed. Sort of adherence to Appendix N as kind of like an inspirational dogma, or as this sort of inspirational bedrock. And while that's true, creativity doesn't. If you're not running a game, or if you're not creating a new game, or a movie, or a painting, or whatever, any sort of creative output that can't stand on its own, right, without the through line of inspiration or the history of creative output being, intelligible to the viewer, or to the player, or to the GM, I think it's a lesser form of art. The inspiration happens naturally as a byproduct of creativity, and you create something new. So in that sense, I don't think media literacy is exactly what's going on here, or even the full solution to, what would you say, alleviating the slop, or at least making the signal to noise ratio more favorable for quality. It's just, don't be afraid. If you're creative, don't be afraid to dig deep. And maybe your idea is trash, or it's retarded, or it's goofy, but if you're shooting for the fences truly, and you want to be doing this, you'll sort of refine things, and it will be your vision, right? We all know that cookie cutter carbon copies are a meme unto themselves. Somewhat less so these days, because the bog standard is bland. Yeah,
but I think that also it kind of comes down to an issue of taste, because we would not have we've said this a bunch of times before, but it's like you would not have all the kind of generic stuff that we would refer to as slop if there wasn't an appetite for it. Of people out there that like it.
That's why I said there's that bell
That's
curve
true.
of sub 80 IQs.
That is most definitely the case.
I think with Appendix N, it's not so much that like we should return. I think the call to return to it is because I think back in the 80s, like it was sort of assumed you read those books and understood them. And I think Appendix N was like a starting point. Like here's a list of basic things you can read so you kind of understand what this game's trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think that Gary's not here, so I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I would think that Gary would encourage people to even read beyond Appendix N.
Well, yeah,
sure.
Appendix N was a product of its time. That was written when, in a certain time period when those books were available to Gary Gygax. And I'd like to think if he was alive now, he would probably have added a lot more shit to that because, there's plenty of cool shit since then that came out that applies, I think.
Yeah, and I get the want to return to it just because the modern game is so far removed from anything that looks remotely like Appendix N.
Or it's remotely removed from anything approaching quality as well.
Yeah, right. Or interesting. Yeah.
We got a super chat here. Appendix
N
is
one earlier too, by the way.
Oh, I did, huh? I meant to. Sorry, Benjamin. Let's get this €2 one out of the way. Don't sell feet pics to Viktor; they will get leaked.
I mean, only on my private Discord.
Fool me once.
Come on, just give them a break. Like they were probably really good feet, so it's, share the wealth. My ear trumpet says Appendix N is only a start. There are plenty of excellent authors not on the Appendix N, e.g., Manly Wade Wellman, whose birthday is today. Yep. There's things that I like to draw from too. Like I've been doing a lot of deep dive into like the folklore, mythological origins of creatures, and I recently did goblins. And I like going back into like old folklore. I like reading Beowulf. I like reading Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And I have looking at Mesopotamian mythology. It's a little dry sometimes, obviously, but that's like totally out of the. It's not like Appendix N at all, but I think there's valuable stuff there to learn.
Well, it's dry because it was written down by dusty old Englishmen.
Yeah. No, mythology is like the greatest wellspring of inspiration, in my opinion. Like it's so interesting. The oldest stories are so cool. And all of the mythological origins of monsters are way more interesting than, the lore, so to speak, that people write now. It's a big reason that we like the game Mithras is that really, in my opinion, kind of captures the feel of that. And it has the same word in its title. So
it's true. Benjamin sent another €2. What is your Appendix N? What inspires you? I don't know if you're asking that of us or if you're just sort of making a statement that people should construct their own Appendix N, which I think is also a valuable thing that one should do. But
I think people should do that. This is one thing that a lot of the old White Wolf games got right. There was like we did this in the Shucked Oyster. Here's some inspirational movies, albums, television shows, books, right?
I have the old Ghost Dog Way of the Samurai RPG supplement for Twistat, and it does that. It'll be like, hey, watch like Chow Yun-Fat's The Killer, or John Woo's The Killer with Chow Yun-Fat. Like watch like these movies to like get inspired for like this kind of like gritty urban color setting. So, and I'm actually also a big fan of that. And my standalone game that I'm working on, I plan to include an Appendix M, not N but M. So for modern. And I'm gonna like just list like all the movies and comics and books and like all that stuff that have inspired me to like write this crazy urban fantasy setting. Yeah.
We had a bunch of appendices in the Shucked Oyster that it was things like wilderness encounter tables. That's Appendix W. It's like Cromworth's Tavern. Appendix T for tavern. It was like very easy.
I think building. So he says "Por qué no los dos?" For his comment here. I agree. I think like building your own Appendix N is important. Yeah. Like for me, like I said, I draw from mythology, but then I also love Appendix N, and I sometimes find that when you mix that, like there's almost like this pseudo alignment. Like if you read Michael Moorcock or Poul Anderson or something like that, and then you read some ancient like Babylonian myths or Assyrian myths, or even the Bible. You read the Genesis story, you're like, hey, I get alignment now. Alignment makes sense, you know. And I think that's kind of like what I meant with like Appendix N and media literacy, because you know you see people today who don't even understand. I'll just use alignment as an example. They don't even understand alignment, so they'll throw it out, and it's like, okay, well, you know, you can not like alignment, but you should not like it by understanding what it's actually trying to do and what it is, rather than just like, I don't understand it and I hate it.
Yeah.
You know, so
you shouldn't like something because you understand that it doesn't make sense or it isn't good, rather than
just not understanding it is not a basis for not liking it. Yeah.
I don't like you because you have outed yourself as a fool. Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned like Appendix T for Tavern, but there's definitely like books you could read that could give you like a really good idea of how to run like a crazy like tavern, like something like the Shucked Oyster. Like something that comes to mind is Callahan's Cross Time Saloon. I'm not sure if you guys ever read those books, but like that always kind of gave me Shucked Oyster vibes. So there's definitely like books that, like I said, you could read to like, it's like, hey, how should I run like a weird like fantasy tavern or just like a cozy like kind of like thing like that with like all these like weird characters. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I guess sorry, go ahead if you want.
Well, no, I was just gonna say briefly. It's like the the point of the Appendix N is it's less required homework for you to be able to like do the book properly, but it's a sort of out of game in an RPG framework. It's in some ways a more explicit way for you or us as the author to sort of put our passion on our sleeves here. And sort of show this is sort of what the vision is. This is what our imagination is like. This is what we're excited about. And whether you read everything or even like every piece of media which is in the Appendix N of whatever product we're talking about, you might like something, and that'll spawn an idea completely unrelated to anything you've read in this book, and that's how the chain continues. The chain of imagination and inspiration continues.
Yeah, one thing I try to do, if I don't have like a notebook with me, I'll try and make a note in a note app on my phone or something, because sometimes I'm inspired by something I read. I'll be somewhere where I'm kind of unexpected and inspired by something, and you know, you want to like write that down. And I think so often, I think it happens to all of us, you know, but a lot of us just don't remember what we were inspired by. Like the thought comes into our head, we're like, oh, that's cool, and then we never expound on that. I mean, most of the time it's probably because we're not really trying to create something. But like if you are trying to create something, whether you're running a game or you're like, I have ambitions to make a supplement and do a Kickstarter or something like that, you probably should be writing your ideas down of what inspires you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is something, I mean, we talked about this on Dundermoose the other day, because it's like we have so many ideas and they come at weird times, and so you have to write it down. And like it's that famous clip of David Lynch where he's saying, you know, like when you get an idea, write it down, because if you don't, then it's like I think he says, you know, you could want to unalive yourself because of the tragedy of losing the idea. But he's not wrong. Like, and you will forget your ideas. And if you write it down in an intelligible way, you will eventually have enough to actually write something.
I still make that mistake to this day. Like
I do too.
I'll be like, oh, this is an awesome idea for like a mechanic. I don't need to write it down. I'll remember it. And then like literally a day later, I was like, what was it again? Like
Jack McCarthy says Blacklight plus Bloodmoor equals on my to-do list.
I mean, I am planning to do that too, so I don't
and it would be lore accurate for this to happen because Bloodmoor, this is neither. Here's the thing: neither of us have ever actually read Ravenloft, so we don't know much about it outside of like, ooh, you can get summoned there, you know. Yeah. And similarly, and there's reasons for this in the setting, your characters can be pulled from other campaign settings or worlds into Bloodmoor, and so it can definitely be a canon thing to have Blacklight showing up, the Institute showing up into Bloodmoor.
And then Blacklight is also set up perfectly for that, because it's literally about like, hey, a portal opened and we're gonna go in there and investigate. So they're both like they fit together pretty well.
Yeah.
Blackmoor? Bloodlight?
Bloodlight. Yeah, I like Bloodlight.
Sounds like Bud Light.
Blackmoor, I mean, I don't like that name much.
I think it already exists, so
yeah.
I had another question here to get back to talking more about your game. Okay, so you guys are obviously designing this for Shadowdark. You kind of talked about how Shucked Oyster could be, it's designed to be used for Shadowdark, but you guys also were using it with, I think, Adventure Conqueror King. So there is sort of like a somewhat system agnostic element to the Shucked Oyster. Is that similar for Bloodmoor? You encourage people that maybe you're not running Shadowdark, but you'd be able to pick up Bloodmoor and be able to use it pretty effectively?
It would be super easy to do that, because the thing is, we are introducing like a new magic system called Moon Magic. It's based on the phases of the moon. But outside of that, it's Shadowdark is similar enough, I think, to most of the OSR systems that you can basically, if you want to have the exact stat blocks, you can just swap out whatever is in your monster manual, or in your OSC rules tome, whatever it is, and not have any problem. Since this isn't even really a dungeon adventure, like the biggest conversion issue that we had with Adventure Conqueror King to Shadowdark, which are just like on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of their rules, was the treasure table conversions. But this isn't even a dungeon. This is like a world, so you don't even have to worry about that stuff. This is really a massive adventuring space that has a bunch of bizarre characters and monsters filling it, and it would be extremely easy to use basically any other system with it. So it is explicitly for Shadowdark. The kind of monsters that the legendary monsters we're building for it will be built specifically with the Shadowdark rules, but it would not be a difficult thing to use this with your favorite game system. Well, and I encourage people, just like with pretty much, this doesn't just apply to this, in my opinion. Most modules, most settings, very easy to adapt to a different rule set, especially if it's in a D20 tradition. Like you can.
I was about to say that,
yeah. It's like you can do that already.
If it mentions you're encountering a ghoul, it doesn't really matter if you take the ghoul from the Shadowdark book or from the Axe book or from the Fiend Folio or whatever. Exactly. If it mentions like that this door is locked and you can lockpick it, doesn't really matter if you use the lockpicking skill system from Shadowdark or from Axe, or you can, you can just, like, even a 5e adventure you can do that shit with. So
but again, we're dealing with sub 80 IQ, so sometimes that conversion's a little rough for people. But sorry, I don't have a very high. I'm a little cynical today. We got a €5 chat again from Benjamin. He said, "I had a major operation years ago, hospitalized with painkillers. Those gave me some crazy hallucinations and clarity. Wish I wrote what I hallucinated."
Write it down.
Well, I guess on the whole, like designing it for Shadowdark thing, like what sort of considerations did you guys take into, like, it's one thing to have like a tavern or like the Shucked Oyster where you can really lean into the carousing mechanic and things like that. And but for a whole campaign setting, like, I'm just curious, like, what is the method of adapting like something specifically for that, aside from like maybe monster stat blocks, or like are there carousing tables? Are there like, does that filter into factions in the game world that you have as well? Like how did you guys consider Shadowdark, I guess, as in a holistic sense in designing the campaign setting?
Well, the big driver for it initially, I think, was just that the Shucked Oyster was, again, it's like it was inspired by this video. It was about Shadowdark, so we just were like, we're doing it for this thing, and it kind of, I think, fit with that from the beginning. In terms of like the kind of mechanical concerns with this, Shadowdark has really good crawling rules for out in the wilderness and for dungeons, and it has dungeon generators and all of those things that are already built in. And so we're encouraging people to use those, because we're giving you a big map, actually a bunch of big maps that are going to be in there, each country. But we're populating these countries with some significant points of interest, and there's big open space between all of it. And so the idea is that you're going to have your own adventures that you're going to use just by following the Shadowdark rules. That's going to spawn its own thing, and everybody's Bloodmoor is going to end up different because of that. Just like the same way if you used like a D&D campaign setting. Now, in terms of the factions and stuff, we do have a little bit of an advancement path with the characters. So when your character joins a player-facing faction, at every certain number of levels, it's like 1, 4, 7, and 10, you get some additional kind of benefit that goes along with that, that are kind of independent of your class. But we didn't want to mess too much with the core leveling mechanic or anything. But it's just kind of it's a little bit of a carrot to put in front of the character for them to continue playing according to the kind of codes of honor that these different organizations have. And the codes of honor are very weird. So you get to have a lot of fun with them too. It's not just, it's not, you can't do X, it's more like you have to go and ruin someone's day somehow.
Yeah. I like what to your previous comment about everyone's Bloodmoor is going to be different. Because that's one thing that I think is so kind of missing, the concept of travel. And so I think that having lots of empty space. So like, let's say the players are like, we're at location A and we're trying to get to location B. Location A is town. Location B is the dungeon or whatever. We got to go in to get the relic or whatever, whatever, quests we're doing in the book that might be written by you guys. But like along the way, I would assume it's like, hey, we discovered there's some barrows that are like here that were generated via the Shadowdark rules that are like halfway there. We could take a little detour and explore these barrows a little bit, maybe get some loot or discover something that might be useful. That's kind of fun to me because those barrows are not going to probably exist in almost anyone else's. Yeah. At least as those exist, they won't exist in anyone else's campaign. And I do think that makes it more unique. And I think the generative, because you guys know me, I love zero prep. I think the generative rules in a lot of these games, Shadowdark, 0E, AD&D, whatever it is, they're really great, and I think they really make for making even pre-written settings your own in that way. Sure.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that people don't use that, and oftentimes just like a lot of people maybe they'll check for a random encounter on the way there just for the sake of giving some challenge on travel, but I feel like the way most people in the hobby do this, based just on sort of degenerate advice that's been given on how to run games, is just like fast forward to the location. Okay, you were at town, now you're at the entrance to the dungeon where we need to get you to go. And that to me, that's not fun. It's half the fun is like getting to the place as much as it is like exploring the place once you get there.
And that's a huge part of fantasy literature is the journey, And I definitely agree with that because it's like I come from a background of playing a lot of games that had no tools like this at all, and I really didn't get into them until I started like watching your channel a couple of years ago, and like once I started using them, I was like, oh man, this has been missing from my game, and I'll basically never go back. And when we do kind of our own games, we're going to have tools like that because it adds so much of the unexpected in. And for people who enjoy prepping sessions as well, like those tools don't have to be used zero prep. You can roll up like encounters or area, like check what's in a hex, in advance, and that can give you more ideas and inspiration. It's really fantastic. And I really like that a lot of the newer kind of games that have come out in the last couple of years have really had these tools in them like this, because it's like modern D&D without, I know Crossface has said that, like Xanathar's Guide, and I think there's also a 5e Wilderness supplement that you cannot get digitally, is supposed to be pretty good. But without those, like the modern lineage of D&D, like it just hasn't been there for a very, very long time.
Yeah, it encourages that teleportation from town to the entrance of the dungeon, and then you're like, all right, well, I guess we'll explore the dungeon. And then even once you're in the dungeon, it's perfectly curated,
totally static. Yeah.
Well, it not only prevents that from happening, or it can, of sort of fast forwarding the sort of pathological end state of like the rule of cool.
Yeah.
But again, if you have ears to hear, eyes to see, and a mind that can rotate, then using these tools to generate places, encounters, sites of interest, all of the details that go into a world, it can really get you into, I think, a more favorable and more productive mindset that actually gives depth, even in the abstract sense. You're doing this as just a creative writing exercise, or just a creative exercise, or not, which is, common to a lot of these older game designers who made very detailed, very complex, complicated, and alien settings, which have existed for decades, like Glorantha or M.A.R. Barker's Tecumel. Barker was always saying, when someone would ask him a bit of lore minutia or trivia fact, it's, you tell me, or what are we going to do? We're going to discover what's here, or what's going to happen, or what's in this place, or who is this person? It's about a discovery. Yeah,
he would
you
tell
yourself
players,
don't know.
Yeah, he'd tell players, why don't you go adventure there and then find out and tell me what you find. And so the idea is that, I've given you something, but the second you put it in motion and you do something with it your own, it becomes your own. And that is the thing I really, really like about it's like sandbox games and this sort of thing of like, this is why I like campaign settings as well. Is if they have kind of conflict baked into them from the beginning, it's just a starting point. That's what it is. And then the world becomes something else, and everyone's game is going to be different. And that's why I don't like, adventure paths and things like that, which are expected to go in some sort of a linear order. It's really more like, no. Like, give me the who hates each other, who likes each other, what's cool about this place, and then we're going to go and do something cool in it. And that's what we're trying to provide in Bloodmoor, is a densely packed place full of a bunch of weird and awesome stuff, and lots of characters that are going to make for great antagonists and potentially great friends as well.
Yeah, I love that kind of game. Like tomorrow, I'm running a classic Traveler game, 1977 classic Traveler game. I just love that game so much because it just gives you all the tools. And people might find this boring, but you guys play Axe, so you might understand this.
Yeah.
So last game, the players spent half the session like going through the starport trying to find cargo and passengers to pay off their ship's mortgage. They have to pay like 136,000 credits a month to support their ship.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, we got passengers here, and there's some crystals that are going from this from our planet to the next planet over. And like the passengers are going there, like if we take these passengers and we can get there safely, like we'll be able to make ends meet and not go into debt on our ship. Yeah. Or go lapse in payments on our ship. And so like half the session was spent with them like literally doing accounting on trying to like figure out how to get goods from one planet to another. Right. And I was having fun. We were all having fun. And that was purely like motivated by them. And so now they're doing a mission on the one planet they're on. Once they finish that, they're going to like take these goods to another planet. And, there's any number of things that could happen based on the tables in Traveler. Like they could run into some space pirates as they just drop out of, hyperspace and approach the planet. There could be some space pirates waiting for them there.
Well, you don't have to space pirates prepped. I mean,
no, I mean, that's what those random encounter tables are for.
And that's if you think about it, that's basically, and I think that Firefly did kind of become inspired from someone's Traveler game, but that's the sort of thing, that's what Firefly's about. Yeah. They're broke, they have to make ends meet, and then a bunch of conflict happens because they're out exploring and doing jobs.
Yeah. And now my players are, they're like involved in some corporate warfare because they're on this like frozen corpo world, and so they're like, we're going to take up with this company, like a genetics modification company. I'm sure that'll work out very well for them.
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of stuff's fun, and I'm literally just making it all up on the
Yeah.
fly based on things that I like in games that I've played and movies that I've watched, and just that's there now.
Yeah.
You know, so it sounds like that's kind of like how you guys have done that. I've actually
sure.
contemplated like I should make this like a full like little subsector traveler setting, because that would just be like after we run this campaign for a while, because that would just be like a lot of fun. I think people would like that. But
have you ever played Cyberpunk 2020?
I have Cyberpunk 2020. I've read the book. I've not had a chance to run it or play it.
Okay, it's a lot of fun and similar. It's just a great game. It's
similar in the way that you're down on your luck, like you know, kind of like street mercenaries, and you know, you're just trying to make ends meet, and you might die in the process.
Right.
But
But I say
legend.
I say all that to sort of just highlight like that idea of just having like a bare skeletal outline of a setting. You know, the setting is just like there are these worlds everywhere. There's this confederation of planets here, and there's like a kingdom of planets here. They hate each other. So like you set up that conflict, and you guys are on the corporate planet where there's lots of like corporate backstabbing and R&D and trying to steal each other's like R&D and what they're working on. You know, you just gotta. That's like the bare minimum you have to set up, and you have like infinite possibilities and that kind of stuff. And I don't think people really realize that.
Even what they're doing with Bloodmoor, like you know, you guys got like distinct like settlements and cities and like all this stuff. But then, like you said, there's like all these empty space in between, and that's your sandbox. That's the bit that you can do with what you want, and that's why we've always said about zero prep. Like it's just a good skill to learn. Even if you love prepping, even if you love running modules, it's just a good skill to learn on the side. So I never get why people get so mad at us, because we've always said that.
And even the cities and things like that. It's like you're going to be expected to come up with your own map. Use the settlement generating stuff, you know, to do that in a city, because it's like, while City State of the Invincible Overlord is incredibly impressive and amazing, you can't do that for every single settlement in a single campaign setting. You know, like and it's fun
Even
to come up with that
why
stuff.
would you?
Why would you? Yeah. You don't want to have. You want enough empty space that people can go out and do unexpected and interesting things with the setting and fill it out on their own. Yeah. But you want enough that's going to be inspiring to them. First of all, to get them in the door to even want to play it, to have an interesting premise. But it's kind of like Appendix N for, you know, guiding what D&D is about. This is you want the setting to communicate what the setting is about. And this is a problem I have with a lot of kind of modern settings, is it's like, I have no idea what this is about, because it's got everything in it. Then none of it gels well together, and there's no like real through line.
I think you guys said something a while back. Maybe it was on the Gilded server, or it was in one of your videos or something like that, where you guys said like people are afraid of strong opinions, and there's no better time than like right now to have strong opinions. And I think that goes for like how to run games, but also like when you're designing games too. You know, I made Makuhito, and I had a lot of people tell me like I shouldn't do it.
Stupid.
It's dumb. Like why would you do that? Like they're playing the bad guys. No one's going to want to play this. And it's like, well, I want to make it though. you know, I have very strong opinions about making this thing, and I want to make it.
And it's great. And there's nothing like it. You know?
There were people that were claiming that like nobody's interested in Mesoamerica, and like it's like, okay, like no, actually I am. Like that sounds cool.
Fact check. Awesome. I am.
But that's that kind of touches what I was saying earlier. Like you have to find that niche, and you have to fucking just lean into it and like capture it.
Someone had asked me a question. Oh, it was Wellen. He said, is Traveler your favorite game at the moment? Not the basic expert. Well, probably because I'm running it. Classic Traveler, at least. I have lots of favorite games, though, and games that I've read that I guess I can't call them my favorites, but I want to get to them eventually. You know, so
Whalen is doing a bunch of maps for us as well.
Well, that brings us to another question. Let's talk about art in the game. So you've hired a lot of mutual friends. So you've hired Wellen, you got Patty. I did the cover. What's your guys' approach to like sort of art direction, I guess, and I guess art in general?
So it kind of depends on what the project needs, because looking at something like our last book, Cults of Zahak, looks totally different than the Shucked Oyster. So the Shucked Oyster and Bloodmoor both have a starting point of inspiration, which is the Shadowdark core book and that kind of old school black and white art style. And since we're making it for that particular game and rule set, we kind of want to follow the kind of design convention there. And so there's a lot of artists out there. There's a lot of art in Drive-Through RPG that we used previously. That was, like stock art and stuff like that, but it's super, super high quality. But we've had artists reach out to us just kind of out of nowhere. Like the guy who did our world map and who has done a couple of sketches coming up. We're going to have the final ink on Monday. He does a bunch of old school work, and it was just like a cold call. Like, hey, I saw you guys did this book. Do you need an artist? And I looked at his page and I was like, yes. And then, but for something like Cults, we had a very different style, and so we relied a lot on public domain. Our friend Dane, who is currently in Austin with us right now and is going to be joining us on our own live stream next tomorrow, I think. Has a very different style than what's going on in like Shadowdark. So it's kind of depends on the tone of the project. And it really was like going with a lot of the public domain stuff that we found for Cults of Zahak was like, I think absolutely the right choice, because there was so much of it that fit perfectly, not exactly what we wrote about. Like it's not like, oh my God, this person drew the cult we came up with 100 years ago. It's like that. But
yeah,
the tone was so perfect, because it was just like there's Gustave Doré is we used a ton of his art, and there's all of his stuff from like the biblical illustrations are, especially from the Old Testament, are super mythological. Yeah, like there's the one with like the Tower of Babel in the background, and it was so good. And there's a lot of really incredible stuff out there, but mostly in terms of like finding artists and whatnot, it's like people either contact us or we've met friends through like different servers, or if I see someone post on Twitter,
right,
cool picture, I just message them like, hey, do you
There's
take
a lot of cool stuff on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, I've put Nolan onto a bunch of people, so
yeah, we're probably going to be reaching out to him for this as well.
Yeah, he's good. Jack McCarthy says, speaking of Cult of Zahak, who is your favorite playtester and why was it? Thanks for the $5, Jack.
Outlook's top guy.
Yeah. And speaking of Cults of Zahak, our book is being printed by Drive-Through right now, so we're waiting for that proof to come in.
Yeah, that one didn't have you're doing offset now for Bloodmoor.
Yes,
correct. Is this your first time doing offset?
Yeah.
Okay, because you didn't do it for Zahak. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cult of Zahak is a lot more serious in tone, I believe, right?
Very much so. It's very different.
Did you prefer writing that, or do you prefer writing Bloodmoor? Do you like the more like loosey-goosey, like tongue-in-cheek Bloodmoor
It was
stuff?
just different.
Very different.
It was different. I would hate both of them if I wanted to work on one while having to do the other.
Yeah.
But it doesn't,
I mean, I know that feeling.
Yeah, it's just a different type of experience. I mean, this isn't a cop out answer. It really is. It feels different, and the way certain aspects of writing it were different, felt different, and there were certainly different challenges in writing Cults, because it was our second book that was a very different tone and for a completely different system than our first book. But it was enjoyable, and we're coming back to Shadowdark, and we're going to come back to Mithras again. Because we legitimately. This is also like, we keep orbiting around this sort of advice or this ethos of like, you have to have a vision, you have to have something that you're energized about. We didn't write the Shucked Oyster or Cults of Zahak or Bloodmoor, for that matter, for any deeper reason than, there's many reasons, but there's no deeper reason than it was something we were legitimately interested in.
Yeah.
There's a kind of energy here that we are attracted to, and if that is the case, if you can identify, this is also another way of saying taste, right?
Yeah.
If you can identify your tastes and what gets you going, you can come back to that well without feeling spent or without feeling, what would you say, like listless, right? It doesn't become tiresome. At least it hasn't for us, and I don't anticipate that it will.
No, and it was actually kind of, looking back, like it was kind of nice switching to Cults of Zahak and doing something that was more serious in tone, because it was like stretching different muscles.
Yeah.
And then when that was over, it was like a breath of fresh air coming back to Bloodmoor and being like, okay, now we can just get kind of like a little wackier, than that one, because what it took to make that book work was, it took a lot more. We had to think a lot more seriously about things, not just because it was serious in tone, but it's because like we can't just have the absurd explanation of like there's like hell radiation in the world, or something that's like that doesn't work in this world, so it's the focus was very different, and it's kind of nice to switch between different things. And it's also just nice, like you don't have to pick one thing and just do that. You can do whatever, you can just do things,
Yeah, I mean that's my own experience. I mean, I write for like different systems. Like I'm currently stuck writing for Old School Essentials and Shadowdark at the same time. And like I'll go weeks just writing for like Blacklight, and then I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done with Blacklight. I'm gonna go back to Old School Essentials, and then I've got like all this new inspiration and all this creativity because I haven't looked at it in a while.
Yeah,
and then so.
So I just wanted to. I had a question and it just escaped my brain.
Damn it!
Got Biden
okay,
brain going
we'll
on.
come back.
No, that's cool. What was I going to say?
Oh, you had asked about Offset as well earlier.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
I guess like, are you guys struggling with Offset? Are you guys? I'm kind of like on the fence. I was like. After I did Makuhito, I was like, I never want to do this again.
Right.
But now that some time's passed, I'm sort of like, well, maybe I could do it again.
Yeah. No, you had quite the arduous journey with that.
Yeah.
But we had wanted to do Offset already, but it just wasn't economically feasible previously. And we were considering doing drive-through print on demand for this again initially. But then drive-throughs prices for black and white books went up 50% or more.
Yeah.
And it was like, this doesn't make any sense anymore, because it's like we could only charge a certain amount for the unit, and then the customer has to pay extra on top of that to get it printed. And it was just like, and it's a hassle, that's a big hassle. And so we started looking for options for printers, and started looking at this and being like, this might actually work. And then, of course, the tariffs happened, and that made us look a lot harder because some options became not viable. But we're doing an offset print with this. We found what we think is a really good printer. They've done RPG books in the past as well. So I reached out to one of the companies that I saw they'd worked with, and they gave me an okay. They said they're good to go. And it's, I think, what we're going to try and do going forward in the future, because it's just a much more, in some ways, I know there's going to be challenges with it that we're just not aware of yet, the unknown unknowns or whatever. But I would rather do that than fulfill through drive-through if I can avoid it, because it's the cost benefit analysis on drive-through just kind of isn't there. It's great for what it is, and we'll have things on drive-through, they'll remain there. And we'll add more stuff to it, but the economics of it has just gotten, I think, pretty bad, unfortunately.
You guys found a domestic printer, right?
We did, yeah. We're going to be printing in the United States of America, which on the Kickstarter page we have. When we say we're printing in the United States, we have that linked to the Wikipedia page for the United States of America in case anybody doesn't know what it is.
Not sure.
Again, sub 80 IQ. So
that's going to be my problem, because I want to do offset print for my standalone project that I plan to do in a couple of years. But I'm in Europe, so it's like I have to make this decision. Like, do I go with a European printer and then get a fulfillment company to get it to the US? Do I go with a US printer and I have no idea yet, and it's going to be a fucking hassle.
The international stuff is tough.
The whole tariff situation, though, it seems to be resolving itself. I think
I think it will as well. But it's I want a book with a sewn binding. That's all there is to it. The glued bindings with drive-through, it's kind of weird because they're kind of hit and miss. I have some books that I bought more than 10 years ago that are not falling apart and are still totally usable, and then I have some that were not that long ago that are falling apart, and it seems kind of random as to which book.
I always complain about my rules cyclopedia and my hardcovers for AD&D First Edition. I used them for a short campaign that I ran. It kind of fizzled out because it was a bunch of dads and it was an online game, and our children and lives got the better of us. But I probably ran 2 or 3 months of AD&D weekly, and the books started to fall apart. And all it was sitting here open on my desk next to me as I'm running the game, and it's you can't even handle your printing can't even handle that.
And that's the weirdest thing too, because around the same time in 2014 or 2015, I got these books. I have this game called Within the Ring of Fire, and I also have Vampire the Requiem 2nd edition, both printed around the same time. So this is not they upgraded their process or whatever. I've used the Within the Ring of Fire books so extensively, and none of them are falling apart. I have read the Vampire book a couple of times, but I haven't been able to run it. That one is falling apart. So it's why? How does this work? I don't know.
The only book I've had that has fallen apart so far was the 3.5 Monster Manual. That one's just loose pages right now in a loose cover, somewhere. But
yeah, people are gonna have to start bringing back the 3-ring binder approach.
Well, I have a comb binding machine. My 5e books fell apart. My Monster Manual and the Player's Handbook, the binding just fell out of those.
Oh man!
And so I've had a comb binding machine because my intention has always been I have some PDFs of games I want to print and just bind myself.
Yeah.
So I had to use those to rebind my Monster Manual for 5e, and I got to still do it for my Player's Handbook for 5e because they're just. And those are not print on demand. Those are Wizards of the Coast, supposedly Smith's own nice books, and they fell apart. So
there's some other stuff with the when you go for an offset print run, there's other things you can do with it as well. You can print on the interior covers, and so we're going to do that with our world map. We'll have something on the back interior cover as well that'll be pertinent and useful for game masters. But it's just it's a nicer book overall. I sent you the link for the Kickstarter page? We can show that if you want.
Yeah.
Kind of go through what we actually got cooking. It's pretty much ready. There's a couple details I need to add and whatnot. And we've got you'll see some sketches of some of the new playable species that are not inked yet. These are just pencils, but the ink's coming in on Monday, I think. But it's I think it's looking pretty good, and I'm excited for people to see it on that Tuesday when it goes live.
It's always exciting to have a good looking Kickstarter page ready.
Yeah, and it's
it's
nice to know it's almost done. There is still stuff that needs to be added, but it's when you have that just blank page when you start, you're just oh man, what do I even write?
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah. So this is the Bloodmoor book here, is got that beautiful cover art by the basic expert,
by the man himself.
The man himself, exactly. It's got Mungo Borlov and his wives on it. I think we have it a bigger image of it down there somewhere as well. But we've got a large world map.
I'll close them fast. We'll go back up here.
Yeah, so this is our world map by Joe Porcio, who's a Spanish artist. Who just cold called us, about doing art, and so we basically Some may say that this is a familiar looking set of geography, but only true hacks and frauds would take actual geography from the real world and just rename the countries. Which is definitely not what we've done here. It's like everybody does like fantasy Western Europe and they change the names. We decided to do fantasy Eastern Europe because it's a little more fitting with the kind of vampire thing going on.
Sure.
Anyway.
Why are you calling me out with my Western Europe settings?
No, I know. Everybody does it, and it's a good thing to do.
Right.
Western European mythology is excellent. But then, if you go down, we got plenty of new things in the book, new classes, new player options,
New races, new factions.
Yeah. These are two of the new races: the Leechman on the left, and the Fishman or the Fishman. Rather.
Fishman.
Yeah, the Fishman on the right, and so those are going to get inked soon. Those are just kind of the thumbnail sketches, temporary.
Funny.
New legendary monsters. This, of course, is a time lapse of some of Patty's work,
Nice.
doing the gelatinous tesseract for us, which turned out amazing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Tesseract.
Yeah. Well, there's also a slime.
That's
that
just
wasn't
Patty.
the art yet.
That's just Patty showing off that he doesn't use AI. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, we put that on there too. We're like, no AI used in here. Here's a clip of something being drawn.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you guys have seen this too. Of like, you post some thing and someone's like, that looks like AI, and it's like, this is not AI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and then those same people will post some AI, and it's like, I can't even tell the difference.
I know.
So, and it's like, I can tell. Like,
I can tell. Yeah. But yeah, this is a page basically going over the beginning.
One of our factions.
One of our factions. There's more to it that comes after this page, but we just wanted to get this because it had the table on it and whatnot. But you get those different boons as you level. There's codes of honor. Like this is the kind of League of Mad Scientists, which is the Royal Society of Unrestrained Vivisection and Men of Vision.
Nice.
They are in the city of Cronenberg. They have this big university, and you basically have to be just a complete menace and weirdo to join it. It's awesome. But we've got
many will want to be. Many will find their goals and their ethos attractive.
Yeah.
So
if you complete enough quests for them by level 10, when you die, the university will recover at least some of your body and bring you back and stitch you together
as something else.
Frankenstein. Yeah,
that's fun. Yeah.
This is one of the region maps. So this is Whelan Cult is doing all the art for these. So this is the country of Bloodmoor itself, and in the kind of southern area of that, there's a little town, and that's where the Shucked Oyster's kind of canonical location is going to be.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's a big adventuring space. That's almost 400 hexes, I think, in there. Which,
that's nice.
So it's huge, and that's one of the bigger countries. But it's lots and lots and lots of stuff can happen in there, and we'll be throwing a bunch of points of interest, predefined, and characters and things like that associated with it.
Nice.
I was told that you should just use 3 mile hexes, so
I know. You can use 3 mile hexes for the 5 types of travel and the 10 types of combat and all that stuff. So this is obviously it's a mock-up of the cover, but this is
looks good though.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice.
Oh, yeah.
And we're anticipating probably 250 to 300 pages. The word count is going to be longer than the Shucked Oyster, most likely, but we're using a smaller font in a different
We're
font.
adjusting the layout slightly.
It looks like, here, you're not going for exactly like what Shucked Oyster or what Shadowdark used. Shucked Oyster, looks like you guys were really trying to mimic the Shadowdark layout, but it looks like you're doing your own.
I think this font is a little bit. It fits better. It's a little bit more archaic, old-fashioned.
Yeah, exactly. And so this was actually, it's the same fonts that we used in Cults of Zahag. And we really liked how that turned out. And we were kind of we just wanted to develop our own style at that point. It'll still be very similar. And a lot of things will have the 2-page spreads and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we wanted to kind of break out and give it our own kind of touch this time.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm doing with Blacklight. I mean, you guys seen it. It doesn't look at all like.
Yeah,
this allows us to put a little bit more words on the page.
Right, exactly. Because even the same sized font, between that font and the Shadowdark font, they're smaller characters.
Yeah.
Right.
And you guys are doing zines, it looks like.
Yeah, so we've got 2 adventures that are going to come along with this. Potentially, you can get just the core book if you want, but for a little bit extra, you'll get 2 adventures. These will be sub 50 pages, probably between 30 and 40. And they're dungeon adventures that are sort of like we did in the Shucked Oyster. Everything is a premise to jump off and do more adventures. So the first one, the Laboratory of Sublime Ascension, is what is now the tomb of 2 wizards who were trying to design slime to try and do the most hideous, awful slime they could ever make. And they had disagreements about what that was. One wanted to create the gelatinous tesseract, and the other wanted to create the recursive slime. So they, the thing that turned them against each other, these madmen, and ended in someone murdering the other one, was an argument over the use of angles or curves in design. And both of those monsters are absolutely ridiculous. Very funny, very deadly. And if your players are extremely stupid, you might encounter them. but it's up to them. The second one is a little bit different. It's takes place in a different country, patrician of Wraithholm, or of the Wraithlands rather. This is kind of more a little bit like, takes a little bit of inspiration from some of the Salt Marsh modules, where it's like, this is a dungeon, there's a bunch of monsters in it, you can go through and kill everything and take the loot, but if that's all you do, you're kind of missing out. Because there's other stuff going on. And so there's an opportunity here to get involved in a little bit of like cloak and dagger politics around and feed you into some of the other factions in this area, and spawn more adventures, because that's what it's all about. B-Dubs is here. Nice to see you, man.
I like his comment, keeping all the disgusting old heads with out with 6-point font they can't see.
Exactly. Excellent profile pic, by the way.
Is this more Patty art right here?
Yeah, this is Patty doing this. He did both the Tesseract and that art right there. Gelatinous boob coming soon.
Yeah, right.
Near you. Yep.
That's the question. Does the Shucked Oyster have a gelatinous cube that I can fuck?
You could try.
I mean, you can try.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. My child is here.
Oh, it's okay. But this is there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here with, there's monsters that are possessed by the ghosts of people who are dead, because this is a land ruled by the undead. Connections to the 4 horsemen of Wraithholm, which is
4 horsemen of Wraithholm. Yes,
remember correctly, is the horsemen of pain,
pain,
of agony,
anguish, or agony, suffering.
They're all variants on pain.
Yeah.
And then and Patty is just like, this was so like such good art. It was like
this one's really cool. I like this one here.
Right. And the map on that is actually Whelan's map.
Bloodmoor map.
That Peter Steele from Typo Negative in the middle there.
Yeah, exactly. Life is killing him.
Yeah.
So then you got your bundles here.
Yeah. So you can get the all PDF version, just the PDF. The entry point, I think, on that one is like $30 for the campaign setting. And it's a little bit more with the PDFs of the zines. And then you got physical versions. Breadbox, how's it going, man?
What's happening, dude?
Yeah. Breadbox did a review of the Shucked Oyster a little while ago. It was really good.
I subscribed to his channel today, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wrong one. Sorry, I meant to. I've seen you comment on the channel before, and I think I checked out your channel for a little bit, but I didn't spend too much time there. I'll go back and check it out.
Yeah. I really like his style. He does. He uses like these silent films, and they're in reverse with the piss filter on them. But yeah, we've got all the physical versions. If you get a physical product, you're going to get the digital version of whatever it is. Obviously,
Right.
We've
We're
got
just doing hardcovers this time around as well.
Yeah. And you can get the back catalog. You can get the Shucked Oyster and Cults of Zahak. We've got the digital versions of that. We've got the physical plus the digital, and the last one is the everything physical and everything digital. Now, since the Shucked Oyster and Cults of Zahak are print-on-demand products, these are not going to be part of the they're not getting an offset print run.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same thing where you get the code from drive-through and you pay a little bit of an extra fee for printing the book and having it shipped to you, but it ends up still being like a massive discount on top of that.
I feel like you got to sort of specify that, because I know Vic has had this. I've had people do this where they're like, people bought like Makuhito print on demand, and they're like, I didn't realize I had to pay again. And I'm like, I literally say on the tier that you supported.
We've got it on the
also
tier.
why we. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say we've got it on the tier. We've got it in this description here, and we've got this big fulfillment section that outlines it. I know that people are still not going to read something somewhere. I'm going to get these, but we're trying to make this as clear as possible. That if you get the physical drive-through versions of the Shucked Oyster and Cults of Zahak, there is going to be an additional charge. It's still, like I said, it's a lot cheaper than buying it retail on drive-through, but there will be an additional charge after the campaign for that.
That's one thing I try to tell people is like, okay, you bought the print-on-demand version, and I'm giving it to you cheaper than if you wait till after the Kickstarter and buy it on drive-through RPG. So it's like, with your pledge plus what you're paying at cost, it's still cheaper than if you wait till this is over. And
and in my case, it's like you're also getting all the stretch goals basically for free, and people are still complaining.
But they don't read the rule books. They're not going to read your pledge.
I know.
Exactly.
It's tough.
Another reason to get away from the POD structure.
Because it's just
to eliminate pain points with the customer. Regardless,
it's irritating for the customer. It's irritating for us. For sure. All the PDFs will be fulfilled through drive-through though, because that is still the easiest way to do it.
You guys should make sure that the title isn't too close to the top of the. By the way,
my Modern Necessities came out perfect, so
mine was fine. I got the original version and it was okay.
And in terms of fulfillment, we're giving ourselves quite a bit of time on this one for obviously Shucked Oyster and Cults, that's already done. So as soon as the check clears from Kickstarter, we'll send all that stuff out to people. For Bloodmoor, though, we're looking probably at like October for PDFs and December, hopefully, for physical fulfillment on that. And the printer that we're going with, they have their own warehousing and shipping. So the turnover from producing the books to shipping them out is going to be pretty quick when that happens. So I'm sure there's going to be some sort of speed bumps that we have. There always is with everything, but we're giving ourselves a lot of time. And I think we've established a pretty good reputation of being very communicative through our Kickstarters. We do pretty frequent updates and tell people how things are going. So that's the whole standard thing. And we've delivered before. So I think that, people can confidently back this and know that you're actually going to get a book.
Right.
For sure. I mean, I hope you guys don't run into the same problems I did. Half of the problems I had with print on demand was just my own stupidity and not knowing what I'm doing. But getting color profiles correct and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
ours too.
I know we've had our own problems. Let's wait, multiple rounds on Shucked Oyster for proofs and all sorts of that stuff. But it's a learning process.
Yeah,
I'm sure. It's one of the advantages of doing black and white books is that a lot of the color stuff is not an issue. But it's I'm really looking forward to getting this. We will have a physical proof to approve before they actually set up the big machine and print all these books. But we'll likely have overrun as well, so we will be able to sell after the Kickstarter likely at a higher price.
That's what I did with Mockweedle.
Yeah. But it's we're getting ready. We got a ton of interviews coming up that are all going on there. We put all the reviews of the Shucked Oyster on there as well under the add-on section, and just a ton of stuff. So yeah, we had Runeforged Games. That interview came out today. It was a lot of fun. That guy's channel is really good. Dunder Moose. We'll have the Basic Expert one. All of these, so we got a whole bunch. We're hitting up every single person we know.
Yeah, you got some space here for people as of yet. So
exactly, so those are all they're all coming in the next week and a half to leading up to the Kickstarter. Some of them are like multiple interviews per day, and others are kind of standalone.
I remember doing that circuit for Mockweedle. It was
yeah,
it's tiresome.
It is, but it's worth it. And
it's you have to do it.
Yeah, you have to do it, and we definitely appreciate you guys having us on the podcast to talk about this.
I mean, you guys helped me out a lot with Blacklight, actually. Like, I think like the link, like the custom link that I gave you guys, like ended up being like the second or third as far as like backers.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Went.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I want to respond to this real quick. So Jack, that Amazon copy is actually the first version of Modern Necessities, because when I first uploaded Modern Necessities to Lulu, there was like an option to like let Lulu sell it to other vendors too, and I just clicked it, like not really thinking about it, which apparently put it on Amazon and like all these other places. And even though I don't sell on Lulu anymore, it's still active on there. So like I have no idea how to turn it off.
Yeah.
So if you want the actual so if you want the actual like modern like the current version, like drop me maybe like a message on Twitter or something, and I'll just fucking give you a free PDF.
Do you still get paid for it even if you took it off?
Yeah, I do get paid for it, but it's like
it's like you took it off, and Lulu's like, well, we're gonna keep selling it.
Yeah.
I'm actually getting fucking letters from like the IRS for it, like these whole forms that I supposedly have to fill out, because the IRS is like, well, you're making money in the US, so you have to like fill out these forms. And I'm like, I'm not filling this shit out. I made like $10 in like 6 months. I'm not filling out your dumb form. Like, what are you gonna do, America? I'm gonna send the IRS commandos after me. Like, fuck off.
Well, they're all getting fired right now, so it's definitely not happening.
Yeah. So yeah, I wish it wasn't selling that old version still on Amazon, but I have like no idea how to disable it. Like, so
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Have any more questions? Because we still got 30 minutes. Usually we go for 2 hours. If you guys still got 30 minutes, if you want to keep going. But,
we can keep talking. We can talk about anything you guys want.
I guess another question about Bloodmoor. What's been, if you have something to say about it, what was probably the hardest? Because there's always a challenge when you're designing something new. What was the hardest thing you guys encountered where you sort of maybe got stumped, or you're making something and you're like, how? The design for this isn't clicking like all the other parts, and this isn't fun anymore. that invariably happens. I feel like even in projects that you're super excited about. I had that happen with Mockweedle, Atomic Punk, any of the games I've made. White Box. There's always that point. But maybe you guys were lucky and you didn't have that. It's awesome if you didn't.
I don't know that we got to a place. Well, I'll speak for me. I don't think I didn't get to a place where. It was painful by any stretch of the imagination, but doing something for a full campaign setting, the number of ordered effects are all the more expansive and all the more numerous, and the time scale and the physical scale is so much more. And as we were coming up with a number of the different factions and sort of discovering more of the metaphysics of this world and how and why things are operating, how things really are clicking into place, what's actually going on here, there are some exponential absurdities that had to be reconciled, some thematic rounding errors that may actually be literal rounding errors in the world, perhaps. But just thinking through a much more expansive place with a lot more connections, And of course, this is Shadowdark with legendary monsters. A lot of legendary monsters. There's a lot of power going on here. A lot of things that can happen. We ran into some road bumps, but after we disentangled ourselves, they invariably turned into something way more hilarious and way more interesting.
Yeah,
well, that's good.
The deep lore of the setting is going to be, I think, very compelling to a lot of people. It's because it's very schizophrenic and it's very funny, and it matters to the here and now. Like the way in which we've done this is that basically like the deep lore is the stuff that happened like 1 million years ago or something that you would think isn't immediately relevant to the game, and it's sort of not, because in the way that there is no living character in the setting that remembers what happened or even knows what happened, but you're going to stumble across these things and you can kind of slowly put together like what actually is Bloodmoor, like what is this place and what is going on here. And when you do put it together, I think that the player theories about what's going on is going to be absolutely hilarious. But the game masters are going to have a huge chuckle finding out why this place works the way it does.
I mean, I know the lore. You've told me. So
yeah.
We have some audience questions here, and I guess that's
sure.
We could go that route if people have that. Yeah. So Jack asks, "What's your I start this one. Yeah, let's go with this one because I think this could go. Maybe you've designed or you played as or ran as an NPC. What is your favorite character from your RPG career?
That's a good question. I think as a player character, most recently, because there's a lot of options to choose from. When we were playing Prowlers and Paragons, I created a character known as the Quadrilateral because we were playing
such a good character,
supervillains, and he was sort of like if you've ever seen the cartoon The Tick, he's kind of like a villain from that show.
Yeah.
He was very fun. His name was Leonard Fairchild, I think was his alter ego. He's very, very funny. Everything about him, he was obsessed with the number 4, and everything had to have 4 sides. His helmet was a literal like cube.
All the phrases and aphorisms were
very stupid.
Multiples of 2s and 4s related, and we're very
anytime I could make a pun about 4 or squares or anything.
Yeah. That was a good time. That was a very good character.
Yeah.
Who I would like to see again.
Yeah.
Man, favorite character. There's so many. I really like I mentioned him in the past. One of my earlier characters I made was we were playing the normie game in Pathfinder. We were in that world. I was playing a cleric of Pharasma who, by virtue of the actions of certain people in the group, became all the more fanatic and all the less reasonable about his convictions and his faith, so much so that he got killed in combat, raised as an undead, which was anathema, and so I PvP'd that player and 2 other players' characters, knocked them both unconscious, and then drank I think the group's only cure serious wound potion left, and committed ritual suicide out of the shame for being raised as an undead, the most anathema thing to my character and to his faith, and literally the types of creatures we were fighting the entire time because of the stupidity of another player character. I thought you'd like it. I thought you'd.
You're back.
You're back to full hit points now.
Yeah, it's more than just about hit points, buddy.
Yeah. So he paid the price.
Yeah.
We have a question here from Patty. He says, "Question: Mungo inspired Bloodmoor. What is Mel Chupas up to?"
That's entirely up to, I guess, you, right? I mean, the player characters. He definitely, it is hinted at. He has an entire family of apish demon lords. Depending on how deep you dive into the true curse, the true threat of the oyster, and how to what extent you follow the conspiracy of the looming shadow of Malchimpus.
Yeah.
He could still be out there. He could still be trapped in the Pandemonium Rainforest, the 200. What is he? The
23rd circle of hell, but I think there's a total of 290 circles of hell.
Or it could be like how our game went, where the priestess cast a dispel evil and rolled like double aughts or something and obliterated him from reality.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
somehow, which should not have been possible. But when you roll double aughts, the impossible becomes eminently possible. Him and the apes are out there, though.
Aren't they always?
Yep.
We got. Do you think? I think he had a typo here, so I think he said, "Do you think high level
play and obstacles
in D&D is overlooked in D&D and similar games? What are the obstacles, and how would you overcome them?" I think high level play in D&D is overlooked because people don't run campaigns long enough to get to it, or they get to high level play, and I think this is kind of a product of 5e. They play 5e. 5e encourages you to just continue to be adventurers. Like we're like level 19 adventurers, and we're practically gods, but for some reason we still delve into dungeons and are interested in loot and treasure.
Well, at that point, you start fighting gods and going into hell and heaven and like all this stuff, and it just gets crazy and weird,
which
and difficult.
You could even make a case for doing something like that. Like we've talked about this in the past, where there's a kind of genre shift between the first third levels in a sort of 1 to 20 modern day D&D or D&D-esque game. You know, there's the first third, second third, and final third all feel thematically very different, and are thematically very different in the visceral capability that the characters have and the monsters that they're fighting have. That would be fine if you were aware of that sort of shift taking place and pivot accordingly with regard to what you're doing. Of course, older editions of D&D do this. Axe does this. And it is kind of like a meme about killing gods, and I get it, and it is a meme. But it is amazing to me that no one has even tried to make a take that idea head on, because you can make an interesting game where you're fighting gods or something. Let's explicitly make this more superheroic or more demigod-like. There's a case to be made for that, but it's just even that kind of presentation isn't capitalized on, or isn't given its sort of due diligence in thinking it through. Like if someone offered that as an option, I think it would actually do very well.
It's like Mike Merles has said with 5e, they ran out of time and they weren't really able to sufficiently play test high level play. And everybody complains about it. And it's like, they just didn't have time to get to it, And so they can kind of, even if like the take on heaven and hell and things like that is kind of implied as even what you're supposed to do, they didn't, by his own admission, he's like, we just didn't have time to actually make it be that and do it well.
Well, I think a issue in modern D&D especially also is like the speed at which you get those levels, especially when people use like milestones instead of like XP and stuff. So it's like it might take you like a year of real time to go from like level 1 to like level like 15 plus. And then in game it might all like I've literally been like in games that have like lasted like 2 years, and in game like barely a month has passed. So it's
crazy.
So your character went from like fighting rats to all of a sudden fighting like a god within like the span of a month, and it's just hard to wrap your brain around that, like that progression of your character. You don't really have the time to like percolate on like how your character actually is getting this powerful, and like does that make sense? Like,
I mean, and obviously it's like there's the time discussion that goes along with it, but this is also a product of skipping travel and skipping all of those things that really add up, and if you're taking it into consideration, then a lot of that gets avoided. But it's and on the speed of leveling, it's like we've been playing Axe for like a year and a half, and less frequently in the last couple of months, last probably 6 months. But the characters are all like level 6, maybe level 7. So it's like they're the speed that I think those that the speed at which you level in modern D&D is just way too fast regardless. But people want that. They want to get their new stats and their new everything.
Yeah. And I
At
think
least
everyone
they think they want it.
that's one thing. Gary says in the AD&D DMG, your players are always going to be angling and harassing you as a GM, as a dungeon master, for ways that they can become more powerful.
Yeah.
And it's like they think they want that until they get it, and then it's not challenging anymore, and it becomes boring, and then your campaign fizzles out and dies.
Yeah, and that literally happened in our game because my players got a hold of some wishes. They managed to parlay one wish into 3 wishes, and then used like the spell research rules and custom magic rules and everything like that in the judge's journal to come up with the most absurdly powerful magic items you could imagine. And I didn't check their work, and they made things that were actually broken with the assumptions of X, to the point where it was like the books are useless to me now. It's like I have nothing to challenge you with. And that was an actual problem. And they found out very quickly. They were like, because they were basically like, oh, we're going to get one over on Matt. And
did it to yourself though. Now the game's done.
But they totally understood. Like my friend Evan, who is primarily responsible for this, he's gone really deep into the rules now, and he was starting to understand and connect all these different systems in the game. And he's like, we're missing out on all of this stuff. And so this was part of the impetus of getting them into Bloodmoor, was get rid of those fucking magic items that you shouldn't have been in the game that I allowed into the game, and now you don't have them anymore. And it's, we're playing Axe again. But they all understood it very quickly, that it's like if you just get an I win button, it's like that's not fun.
Yeah, it's like turning on cheats in the game. And you haven't finished playing like the vanilla playthrough of the game to experience it, and you're already turning on cheats, and so now of course it's not fun.
Yeah, exactly.
We had Benjamin. This is for Vic. How can I contact you, Victor? I have world building questions that I wish to pickle your brain on.
I gave him my Twitter address and email. World building, what's that? I only do 0 prep.
I 0 prep my world building.
Yeah. No, I do a lot of world building. I'm a realm weaver, world builder, realm crafter, all that stuff.
I like all that stuff.
Well, I had to, because I'm not as familiar with Traveler as I am with like 0E. 0E, like D&D, old school D&D, I can just like give me the books, and if you press me to run a game for you, like right now, I can do it. It's not hard. I can just make something up, and it will probably be okay. But like Traveler is sci-fi, and it's such a unique rule set that I'm not as familiar with it. So I was like, I actually do have to sit down and prep a little bit. I have to build out the subsector, and I have to figure out the factions that are there. And, so those that think I'm this stickler, one true wayist, it's like, I'm very contextual in what I believe.
Yeah, that's another thing we've said since the beginning. Like, we've literally said like, hey, this might work for D&D. It doesn't work for fucking Call of Cthulhu. Like we've literally said that like openly, and then people still get mad at us somehow. Yeah, so you can't really win.
I don't care anymore. Well, and obviously, like, I have my own zine for my supporters and stuff like that. So it's like I write adventures and things like that in it. So I'm not against it. It's fun. It's fun to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's also fun to make stuff up on the fly. You can have both. It's not this false dichotomy.
Yeah. Just put Mirkwood in the ever setting.
Yeah. It's easy.
That was funny. I guess I don't know if you have any more questions in there from the chat. I guess you guys have more questions about Bloodmoor. Put them in there. I have a question. So when you guys have a date for when you're going to launch the Kickstarter?
June 3rd.
June 3rd. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a Tuesday. We're going to do the same thing we always do, which is host a rave, get the DJ equipment out
Most
for a couple hours, watch the money roll in, and talk to people who are backing it, and then the next day we're packing up and driving up to Dallas for North Texas RPG Con. We're hoping to play some games with Kelsey, and we'll be playing Hellmarch with Alchemic Raker and Horde Wars with DM Blackwall. Our tables are like right next to each other.
Cool.
And we'll be selling physical copies of the Shucked Oyster and a couple of other things up there, and running the Shucked Oyster. Nick's going to run Vampire and play a bunch of games with people.
I have my ear trumpet, $5 for Viktor. He says, I can't wait for Blacklight to come out so I can rule Zill the hell out of it. I think you might annoy Viktor, but he probably doesn't care because he got your money. So.
Yeah. No refunds. Yeah.
Go ahead and rule Zill. You paid him.
I mean, go ahead. Yeah. I'm spending your money on beer and steak. So, it's fine.
Tuesday. Exactly.
Tuesday, isn't it? That's cool. You guys are going to a con. I'm interested to see how well you guys do.
Go, man.
I gotta go to a con, but I'm just so like I said it before we started streaming. I'm very introverted actually in real life. So
is everyone else at the cons though. It's a bunch of geeks, so it's like you don't have to talk to anybody if you don't want to.
Yeah, also,
I do understand
people there who you know or want to know. You can hang out with them. You don't need to hang out with everybody.
We got to hang out with Ryan Howard last year.
Yep.
Yeah. You met you like linked that on the guild, so you linked that the little map of the con, and it's like, there's fucking Warp from Pulp Hammock. You guys are there. Alchemic Waker's there. Like all these people. I'm like, I was actually kind of got jealous. I'm like, I want to hang out with the homies. I want to be in North Texas, like hang out with the homies. But like, no.
Next year, man.
Yeah, maybe in the next couple of years I'll hit some up.
I'll have to plan something. I'd like to get a table somewhere like what you guys are doing. Yeah. I mean, that seems like fun. Although, I kind of worry because I'm like, you guys, I don't know if you've experienced this because, you guys have contentious takes and people either like you or hate you. And I feel like they're the same with me. And so it's like running into someone that just absolutely hates you. And it's like,
that would be awesome.
That would be great. But we got recognized by one or two people last year at North Texas. I think we'll probably get recognized more this year. But if we were to have someone come and spurg out on us, that would be a lot of fun.
I mean, it'd be entertaining nonetheless. But it's just like the unwashed masses. I'm just sort of like. Yeah, I like
that also. It's not going to happen. Most people who spurg out in the comments,
they will never have
cowards
to
in real
talk
life.
to you. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But the other thing is, it's like most people are just totally unaware of anything on YouTube.
That's true.
Yeah,
they have no idea, and
YouTube and Twitter.
Like, who are you? Yeah.
I'm the most famous. I was going to make a pundit joke. I'm the most famous Latino designer. So
yeah,
I might legitimately be the most famous Dutch designer at this point. I have no idea. I've never heard of another one, so could be.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
So I guess if you guys are going to North Texas Con, look up Black. So that's where you guys are getting your booth, right?
Yeah, we'll have our booth there. We'll probably there's going to be one in Austin as well. It's the first year it's happening. It's called T-Fest. That'll be in August, I think. And then we went to attend last year to the Long Con in Longview, Texas, and that was a lot of fun as well. So we'll likely be there as well, but we haven't. We're just prepping for this first one, because we got the Kickstarter and the con coming up. So it's like our vision of like what happens after like June 8th. We have no idea. It's like all the time and energy is up to
them.
Right.
I own guns.
That's true.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah, but I already own guns, so I don't need taxes for that.
Yeah.
just on topic of guns, I went to shooting with a buddy of mine because I'm here in Idaho, Treasure Valley, and we went to George Norris here in Nampa, and it was awesome. You could hear someone off in the distance, like firing full auto, and then someone else in the next berm over was blowing up tannerite. It was awesome. It's like I love it here.
Is that.
I love living here. This is great. Got machine gun fire over here, tannerite exploding over here. Yeah, this is great.
If I ever move to the US, Idaho is like my top choice.
It's pretty great here. It's pretty great here. I can't deny that.
I love Texas. It does get hot in the summer though.
Yeah,
it gets hot here too, but
it gets cold where you are too.
It does. I like experiencing all 4 seasons. So I don't know. For me, it's like that mental refresh where you're in the middle of winter and you're like, I'm kind of sick of cold. And you're like, oh, good, spring's coming. It's warming up a little bit. And then you're like, I'm ready for summer. Yeah. And
4 seasons are great when they are of the appropriate length to be called seasons and not a disaster.
Yeah, when winter drags on for 5.5 months, it's like
welcome to my life. I fucking hate autumn and winter, and they last so long. Oh
yeah,
I love winter, but again, I'm a recluse, and I love
but you have Idaho winters, where it's like means like mountains and snow and like cool shit. Over here, it's just like cold drizzle for like 6 months.
I think if I were to run a con, I'd probably be here in the Treasure Valley. I know Patty's trying to get me to come up to Coeur d'Alene, but I really
the 250th birthday is going to be in your state next year.
Of America.
Oh,
the big sesquicentennial or whatever it is.
Yep.
Vic is like, I've lived in houses older than that.
Yeah, little baby country.
Just getting up to Coeur d'Alene though would be hard. So I'd probably do something here in the Treasure Valley. There's more people down here too. In the valley.
Well, let us know if you do.
I already have a name picked out. If I were to run my own con, it'd be Basicon.
Basicon.
Basicon. That'd be my
hosted by the Basic Expert and Associates.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my daughter just informed me we have baby ducks.
Yeah.
We have 1 baby duck. Okay. I'll go check in a minute. All right. We'll probably get into the end here. I'm on. I didn't read this one here from my ear trumpet. $5 Australian. I'm on YouTube. I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are actually a pretty big channel as far as like the RPG.
You guys blew up.
And I mean, you guys got haters, you guys got fans. Like, what more do you want?
More of both.
More of all those things.
Yeah.
What's this question earlier? Has Kelsey heard of Bloodmoor?
She has heard of it.
Kelsey has heard of Bloodmoor.
Yeah, Kelsey does a good job, like keeping like in touch with what people using her rule set are doing.
I think she wants to see other people. I mean, even. I think people have this perception of her, like, oh, she's an activist or whatever. I really don't think she cares.
But she's not at all.
No,
I don't think she cares. She's happy to see other people, even if she probably disagrees with you on something. She's happy to see you using her rules for something.
Yeah, I have never seen her talk about politics one way or the other at all. They don't generally allow that on her Discord server. It's just she's built a really just gaming focused community, and she's been nothing but wonderful to us and to a lot of our friends. So it's like it's just like people, everything is like some sort of Rorschach test for people on the internet, and so it's like, I don't know. I really, really like Kelsey, and I don't like it when people say stupid shit like that.
Yeah. No, Kelsey is awesome. I mean, we've talked about this before, how she's helped me out, and
Yeah. And she's been, she messaged me, after that last time that, someone was like, why are you stealing this other person's game? That happened with Vic.
Yeah.
She messaged me and just thanked me for sticking up for you in the Discord.
Yeah, that's cool.
And she's been, super responsive, very helpful. And we're very much looking forward to, because she's going to be at North Texas RPG Con. We're going to try to rope her into an interview. and then hopefully get her into some games as well.
Yeah, no, I was appreciative of you guys sticking up for me too. I was actually kind of mad at the time because there was people in the Discord that were like tone policing me, like I was the problem. I was so fucking mad.
I know, it's like someone comes in and accuses you of something, and you're like, "Hey, don't do that." And they're like, "Whoa, Victor, calm down."
Yeah. I was like, "What the fuck?"
It's like that scene from Anger Management where they're like, "Sir, calm down." You're like, "I am calm."
Tone policing is just lame to begin with.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Oh yeah.
It's like, shut up. I deal with what I'm saying. Don't.
Yeah.
If you have to go to my tone, it means you don't have an argument.
Right.
So. Yeah. Well, yeah. If there's is there anything I missed? Is there anything last thing you guys want to plug?
I think we hit it.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
there was a
Bloodmoor,
question from
June
Evo,
3rd on Kickstarter. Go get signed up so you get the notification.
Yes.
Because these things, as we all know, live and die on the first couple days, and we definitely want this one to pop off as much as possible. It's going to be a really, really good book, and I think you're all going to enjoy it a lot.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Maybe get
sounds awesome.
the sign up link here so people can get notified when it goes live.
Oh yeah, I can put that in the private chat for you.
I'm always a fan of like that kind of like Curse of Strahd kind of vibe. So
yeah,
you guys are doing that and you're having like fun with it. So
it's awesome, and it's been a lot of fun in our own game.
Yes.
I've already got plans for it. I've mentioned some of them to you, Matt. So,
yeah.
So we got the link here. Go ahead and check it out and sign up. Get notified when it goes live. Support it because, like you said, it's those first few hours of that campaign are super critical and important.
Yeah.
So, I know that ran a Kickstarter once before. Obviously, all of you guys have done more Kickstarters than me, though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, go support them. Check it out. I didn't link your guys' channel. I put all the links in. I can't believe I forgot to. I'll put it in the once we sign off here. I'll update the links.
Cool.
Below.
Thank you.
But make sure you guys go check them out. I got nothing more to ask you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
I wish you guys the best, and I hope the project is successful. Partly selfishly because I like doing covers for you guys.
Yeah,
so.
we like hiring you
as well. Yeah. So I'd love to see you guys make more stuff, and I get to paint more fun, interesting things because you guys are always making cool stuff. I had fun with this cover because I was like, "Oh, vampires! I haven't painted vampires in like a long time. This would be fun." So, I'm happy to work with you guys on that, and glad to have you guys on here and support you guys as best I can because you guys have supported both of us extensively, and it means a lot to both of us.
Likewise.
We gotta lift each other up. So, I think we'll end it here. Thank you guys for coming on, and everyone go check them out. I'll update the. This is more side boob. I don't know if you're referring to my art, but I mean, like the Shucked Oysters, some of those girls just have pasties on, so I don't know what more you could want. Like I pushed the boundary as much as I could, and Zahak has a booty on it, so
that's true.
I don't know what more you guys could want. We'll end it here, though. Thank you guys for coming on, and I got to go check on some baby ducks. Apparently, so.
Have a good one, guys.
We'll catch you guys in the next stream.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.